Testing, testing. Is this thing on? When it comes to event planning, it's all in the detail. Dr. Philip Rothschild, Director of the Entertainment Management Program, knows all about that. And today he's joining us for this episode of Bear's Show, How to Never Enjoy a Concert Again. So, Dr. Rothschild, where are we right now?
Well, Brittany, we happen to be at the Galois Theater. It's a theater that was built in about the 1920s here in downtown Springfield. It's got about 1,100 seats, 1,400 seats if it's just a standing room only. It's an absolutely beautiful, ornate, historic theater that was redeveloped and spent over $10 million to redevelop this particular facility, remodel it, put it back in its very original state in so many different ways. It's a beautiful place for concerts, comedians, major events, banquets, things of that nature. It's a great place.
Awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about the entertainment management program that you're over?
Yeah, the entertainment management major is located in the College of Business at Missouri State University. And what we do in that particular major is we try to prepare students for careers on the business side of events, sports, music, and venues. So we want them to have an understanding of what goes into creating that experience for people.
So what are you expecting at the beginning of the program from them?
Well, at the very beginning of that event audit, what they do is they have to pay attention to the details upon entry. Mm-hmm. So what we're looking for is, for example, at the box office. Is there a long line at the box office? We call it will call, where people pick up their tickets. And one of the things that can really crush an experience for people, if there's a long line waiting to pick up their tickets, the better event manager or venue is always going to have a very streamlined process of picking up those tickets and moving in. So we pay attention to that. We also pay attention to any kind of before events that are taking place. So for example, at the Hammonds Hall for the Performing Arts on campus, sometimes when they do a Broadway production, they'll have a pre-performance discussion about that particular production. So what that does is that allows people to get there a little bit earlier and minimize the congestion right before the event.
What are you expecting during the audit?
Well, there's a lot of things I want my students to pick up on during the actual event. So some of the things I have my students pay attention to is like attendance. How many people are there? Can you estimate attendance? And so what I'll have students do is, if they're up in the balcony like we are right now, and they're looking down on the floor, I might have them put up their hand and try to calculate how many seats are within the width of my hand and length of my hand, and then count how many seats I see within each of those handprints that I have across the room. So I can estimate the number of people that are there, or at least find out the number of seats that are in there. I can ask them to ask someone how many seats are there, and then they can estimate how many actually came to the event, because knowing how many are there determines how much revenue is generated for the event, for the artists that might be performing, etc. Another thing that I look at when we do looking at the during of the event is taking a look at the lighting. On a stage, you'll see that there's usually an opening act, and then there's a headliner that comes after that. If you pay attention to the details, you notice that the opening act doesn't have the whiz-bang lights that the headliner has. Mm-hmm. The volume may be a little bit lower. The overall stage set may not be as good as it is for the headliner. So it's always interesting to notice how things build for the headliner, and that the opening act doesn't have as much attention to the details paid to them from a performance angle. So that's something we look at during the event.
What are you expecting your students to learn at the exit of the event?
Yeah, so there's an entry, there's a performance, there's intermission, and then there's usually an exit, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things I just have students pay attention to is, how does the flow of traffic move during the exit? And even before that, I ask them to pay attention to things such as exit signs. There's a number of different exits. How can people exit? If there was a fire, if there was some kind of crisis that went on, then you'd want them to be able to exit rather quickly. Sometimes exit signs are blown out. You don't want to have exit sign lights blown out. Yeah. You instead want people to be able to see them and move quickly through them. So the other things that we pay attention to as they exit is, again, the flow of traffic. How quickly do people get out of the building? Sometimes a sign of a great event is when people stay in the building and just hang out. It means there's somewhat of a community was created.
Well, I'll definitely never look at an event the same way. This has been some great information, and thank you for joining us, Dr.
pleasure.
Rothschild. And thank you guys for watching this episode of Bears Show How To.